not necessarily like a feedback thing, but more like what did you take from this course? And then looking forward. Before that, let's look backwards. Backwards to exercise 5, the last exercise for those of you who have made it. And it's always nice to acknowledge people who have done a great work. So I chose to acknowledge Outi and Margarita for a really good assignment. And of course, there were many others as well, but if I decided to pick one, I picked them. So well done. Really good reflections and, good stuff. It was a pleasure to read. And on the topic of other great answers, I picked up a couple of quotes again, just as we do in this course. And one of the themes, okay, those of you who did not do the exercise, just a quick reminder, the final exercise was actually facilitate for the other person how to run a workshop. So the other person had brought a workshop idea to the table, and the job was to facilitate and help to make that workshop better. And then the roles were switched. One of you wrote that this having a facilitator in the conversation help to focus on the purpose of the workshop. And if my tools will guide us, there is the main answer. It's blocking. I need to read from here. Is the main answer the facilitator with his question but it could give me. So point being that really for this person, the facilitator pushed to think about the abstract, the purpose. Why are we doing this rather than the details? Another one of you wrote, my pair did make few really useful and relevant points about workshop objectives looking forward from above and outside my current situation using different lenses. So excellent quote, excellent insight that yes, when you have an external person, yeah, they give you new perspectives. They can look it through other lenses. Simple as that. Remember, get external people. Third, interviewer does not have to be an expert on the subject. Therefore, he or she can be dumb and ask clarifying, preferably even surprising questions to create a new perspective of viewpoints. Yes, I think that's the beauty of it. And I think some of you, there was one of you, I guess you're a degree student at Aalto, going like, well, my pair was really experienced and I feel I was a bit more junior in it. But then again, I didn't have anything to give for that really senior person. But on the other hand, I think might be from the same person. This quote was that, well, actually, I did kind of then at the end of the day give, by playing dumb, I could ask like questions that helped and were clarifying and actually were really good questions. So I think it doesn't have to be, of course, if you're more experienced, you are more experienced. But if you're not, I mean, you can still ask really good clarifying questions and use your inexperience as the strength here. The last quote on this slide, I noticed that facilitation can actually be easier when you do not have background knowledge about the topic or the person, because then you listen more openly and without too many assumptions. Wow. So that's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, Jari, what do you want to
Yeah, I
say?
really like this experience that because we quite often when starting to this kind of can I be a facilitator or so we have this I don't know the topic I can't be, but it is really useful that we dare to ask questions that or we just want to clarify and then those that when we are deep in the topic, then we don't even see those possible uh, kind of pitfalls or whatever. And so when somebody's asking, we have to clarify, then we realize anew what we are aiming to do or what is the essence of the topic. So that's really great kind of benefit and help as well.
Yeah. And now, if you go back to the previous lecture, we actually gave you a lot of really good questions. So you don't have to be, I mean, you just go and ask those questions for almost any project, and already they are good questions, whether you're experienced or inexperienced. They are, that's what facilitation is about. There's probably typical questions like a checklist to go over. Then this is a reoccurring topic. So every year, this exercise and the comments, there's a good reflection on, as a facilitator, can I tell my own opinion? Can I give my own ideas? And I think at least my view in this, and Jari, if you disagree, say so, is that yes. But ask a permission first, going like, hey, I am the facilitator, would you like to hear what I think about this? Or, because I think it's kind of, well, let's read what you said. One of you said, as a facilitator, I sometimes had ideas on how things should be done, but I did not want to inject them into the process, but rather guide towards them. Interesting. Because the option could have been that you just said them aloud and say, hey.
Yeah.
Next, effective facilitation is less about providing answers and more about creating a space where the other person can think clearly and develop their own insights. Absolutely. Yes. Definitely, I think that's a really good quote. Definitely, the facilitator is not there to give answers. It's real to create the space. But I mean, if you have personal experience, if you have done things before, I mean, bring them to the table. And then, of course, they don't have to be, the other person don't have to be doing them, but they are on the table. I mean, if you know that 2 + 2 is 4, why hide it? Third comment. I noticed that I sometimes wanted to give suggestions or offer my solution, but that was not really the role I was supposed to take. The point was not to design the workshop for the other person, but to help them to think through their own design. Again, I kind of disagree. I mean, the role is there to help the other, just like this person said. But maybe the way of helping is telling that, hey, you know what? I once had this situation and I did this. And now the way that you phrase that, of course, is different going like, I think you should do this is a bit different. Like, well, actually, like I said, once I was in a situation and it was done like this. It's not telling what the other person does, but it's bringing this knowledge into the table. Fourth, I had to watch myself though, because that same familiarity made it tempting to nudge her towards conclusions I would have reached on my own. And that isn't what coaching is supposed to be. Well, again, it's perfectly fine to have those opinions. But again, I think, good coaching is that, hey, you bring your expertise, you bring your knowledge, it's there on the table, and the other person makes the decision what to do with that knowledge. Jari, what do you think?
Yes. I would say, of course, this now resonates very closely to this coaching exercise and your reflections on that. So this is a moment which you have to be aware of and I like this considerations. It shows that you have been thinking and being aware of the positioning and the role, and then and I would say that yes, and ask permission, but of course, it's if you are very experienced, then it's easily that the other person, okay, that's a great idea, I will do that. So it stop thinking. So and being cautious with this, but I think you can utilize your own experience as a kind of resource in discussion, because it's a knowledge resource that you can and asking in a way that, okay, I have this experience. What do you think about that? But then asking, do you see other options as well? And so I think yes, it's really a little bit unfair to hold back that I don't tell you anything, but I want to manipulate you towards the right question. So but it is but it is in a way being aware of this delicateness here is important. And of course, through experience, you will notice that how your clients and facilities will take it then when you use it. But I think it's kind of direct advice that I know what's the right for you, and then offering that. So I think that's against the idea. But yes,
perhaps to be, babe, it's just as a facilitator to be there just like an impatient 4-year-old kid going like,
no.
Can I say it? Can I say it? Well, but it is, I fully agree. It's kind of like reading the situation,
indeed.
How to bring it, whether to bring it, and then all that. But I think summary, bring it as a resource. That's what Jari, you said, yeah. One more quotation slide. I think a lot of observations. I mean, this was a rich exercise. I think there was a lot of stuff. One of you wrote, I asked my pair some easy questions about how she's doing today and how has this course and journey felt so far to get a warm start and create relaxed atmosphere between us. Excellent. That's definitely a facilitation there, right there. Just kind of small talk, chit chat. Second, as a facilitator in my peer's workshop, I was now more curious about asking why he's doing this or that, more than just asking how he's doing it or how exactly a tool or should be played out. this experience does a big shift in perspective away from how to do things to the why we do things. Okay, that was a long quote, but I really like the curiosity there. That as a facilitator, you started becoming curious and interesting, and that's of course very valuable because then you're authentic. You are kind of like, hey, tell me, I want to know, I want to understand. And then as a side note, it went into these kind of things about why is this more, let's say, strategic questions. Why are we doing this in the first place? Third quote, but I realized afterwards that letting someone talk and truly facilitating are not the same thing. A facilitator also needs to redirect and challenge at the right moments. Excellent observation. So it's not just that you're listening, but the facilitator has an active role. Well put.
And I would add that facilitator and coach is leading the process in a way, in that sense that there is a goal and direction, and then using those moments and directing the talk towards the goal as well. So that's important role, and so I really like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That facilitator is an active role, definitely. Yeah. Last but not least, clearly define my role as facilitator and communicate that to participants. Related to preparing myself, I need to recognize the areas where I might have strong opinions and how to stay in neutral facilitator role. Very good reflection, very good thinking. And kind of, I guess, what we just said in the previous slide, that it's how do you bring that as a resource, and you need to kind of read the situation and, kind of understand that how do I bring this, whether as a neutral facilitator or whether as somebody who has done this but really wants to help the other to get the same thing done.
And here we can say that as a facilitator, we are on side of the process and the usefulness of the time we are using for the content, but the content is owned by the client and the solution as well. And so that's and taking stance and this neutrality is I emphasize that as a coaching part, that having a neutrality is important in a way. Of course, we have certain stance anyway, but also recognizing our own meta biases or thinking about the topic as well is important. But then as a facilitator, we are a helper in a process, this sense making, this reification process in a way that we produce something. And I think that's also kind of good to have the recognizing the stance.
Which kind of brings us to the next slide, that it's about being aware, conscious of your role. What is my role here? Does everybody else agree that this is my role? What's my angle into this? How do I approach this, and why do I choose this angle? But also, like we talked a couple of lectures ago about the tools and techniques. So what are the tools I typically use? What are the methods I typically use? What's in my toolbox? You need to be conscious about those tools. And you probably remember when I talked about that tools are more than tools, that these are for communication, or these are for research, or these are for, engaging people.
Yeah.
And then last but not least is kind of your own style. Of course, facilitating, because it's such a human to human thing. I mean, be yourself in a way, and find the style that, this is how you do it. This is what you're really good at. I think there was one person who was reflecting that I'm not really good at this, but I'm really good at that. And that was really good. And that's what we, all about. There are different roles we can take, but I'm saying that then it's a different question, that in that role, there's a variety of styles, and that's maybe closer to the kind of persons we are.
Yes, I think this style and personal käsiala in a way as a facilitator, as I'm talking about käsiala as a so handwriting in a way that what's my personal style. And it's also that recognizing which are the situations where I'm a best facilitator, because it's also that maybe some other situations we are not at best. And so that could be also thinking that when somebody asks to us to help in a certain situation, it might be that maybe we are not the best at that, but in some, but of course having a wider repertoire is always good. But then also I liked and like to emphasize this relationship building when you were saying that that making sure that everybody now understand the role of facilitator and so on. So, but that's really building a context, building the relationship with the group we are working with, and not rushing into the first item right away, but really making sure that there is a good start, that everybody knows adequately what we are going to do and how we're going to do and what's our roles in the process.
Yeah, and here's another way of looking at the same things, mine kind of more practical, kind of I hope that everybody at this stage of the course can distinguish between these two, kind of like there's a difference between how do I plan a workshop and how do I facilitate the planning of a workshop. And then again, it's a different role and different angle. Are you an expert who's giving advice, maybe coaching somebody that this is how you should do it? Or are you a neutral facilitator? Third one, are you going to focus on workshop only? Or are you taking a broader perspective like we pushed you to do, focusing on the before or the after the workshop? What's your angle? Maybe that's the question. And just with this little experience, noticing that of course, it's very different to be a facilitator or being facilitated. And because it's a human-to-human thing, it actually matters quite a lot that you agree kind of on these roles and your goals with this. And the person who's being facilitated has to accept that as well, taking advice and, letting the other person maybe give their advice and so forth. And then, of course, kind of summarizing, it's a different thing to give an answer than facilitating an answer. And those are, you maybe need to click your brains in a different position in those situations. And then, of course, kind of another way of looking at this, and we're hoping that we have kind of made you think about and reflect on these, that as a facilitator, how do you make a balance between their expertise and your expertise? And, it's a kind of playing, it's reading the situation, like I said. What's your agenda and what is their agenda? Why are you there? What are you doing and why and for what purposes and what ends? Your opinions, their opinions. How do you balance between them? Your techniques and tools, the ones you're familiar with. And what about the techniques and tools they are familiar with? Where do you strike the balance? And then your personality and their personality. Does it matter? Are you conscious about it? Have you realized that maybe your personality and that person, that's not a really good match. So maybe somebody else should facilitate that person and so forth and so forth. And the simple thing is just to bring this up in a conversation. What does the other person need from the facilitator? It's like, hey, great, I was assigned as a facilitator, but I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you want me to help you with? Or how do you see this? Or, if somebody asks you to be a coach or a mentor or a facilitator, is to asking, okay, what do you expect? Or do you have previous experiences? What do you think is a good facilitator? Or like it's in the quote. So what would you like to get out of this? What is our shared agenda? What's your agenda in this? So a little bit more about reflection. We're going to have you in a breakout room for the first part. I think the second part as well. Kind of wrapping up this course. Let's remind you what this course was all about, and then have you think, what did you learn from all this? What are the aims, the process, and well, what we have done. Well, here's the course objective. We started in April, and our goal was to change your thinking about leadership, organizations, facilitating change in organizations. And we were hoping to show you through these assignments and examples that it's actually very practical. And it's very repetitive, coming over and over and over again. Same themes come. It's always about clarifying objectives. It's having a dialogue. It probably doesn't happen once. In the real world, you would have more these same dialogues over and over again. And it's kind of personal, like just those reflections we had. You need to be conscious about yourself in those. So I would say it's not book knowledge, at least the way we present this. It's a craft. It's an experience. And then, of course, the other course objective here was everybody, the others. How would we leverage the fact that there are you who are degree students, and most of you who are professionals? And how we're forcing you to listen and do these exercises online, and how to facilitate online, and how does that actually work? And also helping you with materials, links, tools, thinking that you could probably take, or you can take immediately into use. I mean, drawing circles is something you can do anytime, anywhere. And as a reminder, these were the topics. First, we talked about lenses and uncertain landscapes. Then we talk about organizational transformations and how typically they go, some kind of transformation models. Then we talked about lean, agile, and design, and the importance of shared meanings, reification, participation. Then Jari talked about facilitation more in depth. Last week, it was actually last week, I talked about the tools and the different dimensions of the tools and how tool is more than a tool, canvases, and then I had kind of these practical examples of what typically are the facilitation challenges, and then an example of a workshop on how do you teach design for non-designers. And here's just remembering the exercises, was the context onion, kind of the static organizational context drawn easily. Temporal onion, the before and the after. Then clarifying the goals, the dumb criteria, doable, understandable, measurable, beneficial. Then it was the listening and reflection, kind of, reflecting and listening to others about the course. And then kind of the final exercise where you could have put together many of these things that you actually coached or facilitated a workshop for the other person and vice versa. So now let's take 2-3 minutes and write somewhere, paper or pen, or maybe your laptop or phone. Take a moment, reflect on this course and your course experience as a whole. What has been meaningful for you and what are your key takeaways? And once you have had those 2-3 minutes to think about it, then we will make the breakout rooms and you can share these. But now 2-3 minutes in silence. Let's go. Many methods and ideas were familiar on a superficial level, but understanding the theory behind them helps to see the benefits and reasoning better. Discussion with people with different backgrounds have been fruitful and given a lot of think about. Yeah, that's always good. What about Katri and room 9? Comments like that's interesting lead to leading with that comment. So, now you're coming fast. Facilitation is a good way to learn what others are doing. Hey, that's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, facilitation, that's a two-way street. Actually, it's a good way of learning what other people are doing. Yeah, that's really good. Onion can be used in the near future. Focusing on goal and purpose has been almost groundbreaking. It's too easily forgotten. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. It is. Somehow it's forgotten. We're I don't know. As a humanity, we have forgotten to clarify goals. Okay, what else? Marco put from exercises, people having really nice discussions. Yeah, I can see that in the assignments as well. Freshing the mental model, what change is. Good. Missing. The course would probably benefit from addressing cultural factors when leading change or facilitating something. Yes, of course it would. Another topic we are not going is kind of related to the cultural factors is internal politics. I mean, we could talk more about, take that into account as well. Yeah, good point. What about else here we have? I realize as a team leader, I need to be asking more questions to make sure we understand things the same way. Yes. Yes. I think that's a good point. Facilitation skills were the most interesting. Yes. It's good that you took them from that. It's even more useful when you have a little background as it makes you more curious. That helps the other person think outside the box. Yeah, curiosity again. That's a good word. But here, I may use facilitation spirit even in conversation at work. Why not? Absolutely. Like I said, you can use facilitation to learn about other people. That was the comment before. Reflecting was useful, helped to think and absorb the teachings. Yes, and I think now in the world of artificial intelligence and everybody pushing us to do more and more and more, reflection's gonna go out of the window. So let's be aware of this, that there will be less time to reflect. Or maybe we reflect with the AI. I mean, I'm not saying that's bad. I do that quite a lot myself as well. So maybe that's what goes, but kind of reflecting again on, yeah, let's see, reflection. Let's pay attention to that. What else? I did like the course could be taken in the evening after work, that it's not overcomplicated. Well, thanks. Good. That's how we planned it. Nice to hear. And nice as a beginner level would be nice to have advanced level course with more tools, more theory and practice. Yes. There is a course like that, but then you pretty much need to be a student at Aalto University. I think our colleague Satu Rekonen is running the course, designing and organization, whatever. That's a hands-on advanced course. Okay, a few more before we get to 5 o'clock. So many models, a sort of scaffolding, which allow me to attach experiences. Hey, that's a nice way of putting it. Thank you for that. If you kind of the things brought here help you, what is it? Allowed me to attach experiences. Hey, that's really nice. Models of change, model of goals, campaign. Yeah. So you can kind of things. Maybe if I reframe this from my experience of facilitating people, is that when you give them a framework, or maybe even give them a word, and then they go like, wow, I have been doing that, but I have never realized that this is actually a thing. You know, facilitation is typically like that. It's kind of like, we're asked to do, I don't know, something productive, or, project management. We're asking to do programming. We're asking to do analysis. But then that, to get things done, I need to do all these things, and nobody has ever given a word for it. So attaching experiences, that's a nice concept. Maybe a couple of more. There's a lot of these, as you see. We discussed about this being a good refresher course, but we missed the people factor, as any change impacts people. Interesting. Yeah, I guess we could have more people factor, but as you well know, this is only 6 lectures, well, we intentionally need things. Yeah. Because, well, yeah, we think that this is all about people all the time. All of us gained a lot for thoughts for the course. Some of us has already tested the tools successfully. That's nice to hear. Good. But to stay on schedule, time for a 5-minute break. Don't go too far. We continue 5 past. And then it's Jari's turn to talk about meta skills and routines. See you soon.
All right. Hope you're back from the break, and had a break actually. But let's now take a look on facilitators, meta skills, and routines. And why are we talking about these? Is that, or what we are talking about now is meta skills, what and why, meta routines, what and why, and then how can we learn and improve in general these skills, but also as a facilitator, and why they are important. Of course, when we are talking about meta skills, what are those? Well, there's one definition that they are kind of master skills that magnify and activate other skills. So it's kind of higher order skills that allow us to engage with our functional expertise more effectively. And they can be seen as catalyst for learning and building new skills faster. So they kind of coordination, controlling skills in that sense. And why do this matter now even more than before? And maybe now in the era of AI, when change is really rapid, and our current, we are learning new practices all the time and so on. So the need for really manage ourselves, our activities, and our relationality, our positioning roles, and being, and our learning, and our thinking even, and all that is needed more than ever. And of course, this concern all of us, whatever role we have. But I would argue that when we are in a role where we are making impact, and deliberately, whether we are leaders or change agents, so this is even more important to us. But well, uncertain, discontinued disruptions we have been talking throughout the course and more widely currently in whatever context we are having. So these are quite heavily discussed and also we are concerned. So more needs to adapt, more needs to make sense, more needs to learn and transform. So this kind of adaptation learning skills are needed even more. And so as a facilitator, it concerns us quite strongly. Nevertheless, we all have reached a certain level of these skills through our life experience, some more, some less. So becoming a human is, of course, that we learn to make sense, learn to adapt and deal with other people and make impact and so forth. And as I said already, that this used to be kind of nice add-on, but nowadays these are more and more decisive in all professions and all organizations, that we have personal but also collectively this kind of routines, practices, and skills and competencies to make sense and adapt and change and discuss. So quite often, I think in university education, it tends to be that we focus on learning those substantial skills. And this is somehow kind of add on or happening inside, but fortunately more attention has been paid to this lately. And maybe it can happen that this is again really a core of our educational stance in the future, because how to stay human and how to keep our communities sustaining and so forth. So I would say that we are now in some kind of transition period of how we see our competencies as a whole. But I would like to argue that these skills and competencies are even more important. But then how we can let's say think about that there's one framework I've been using when talking about this kind of relational professions and where the core of the professional impact or is or those professions where relationality is the core, so that we are doing stuff with other people and for them and with them and within the social context. And leadership and leader role is normally such, but of course in many other roles we need these skills and core of that. Whatever self-help book, leadership book, facilitation book we take, there is in a core, well, you can call self-awareness. And of course, this old philosophical question: how do well we know ourselves? And of course, there's a lot of things. And if we want to be a good with other people, then knowing ourselves is kind of well enough is a kind of very fundamental thing. And of course, there's a lot of stuff here, but what I would like to emphasize here is of course the personal values, identities, purpose and mission, who am I, and our aims, what do I want and why. So if I want to be a leader, or what kind of impact I want to make, what drives me on, so why leading, why facilitating, coaching, what's my professional stance. Then of course strengths, development, needs, emotions, temper. So what's my way of being with other people. But then very importantly as well that we can talk about this kind of extended self-awareness, where if we have a good alignment with our own view and how others perceive and experience ourselves and dealing with us. And so that we can talk about social self-awareness or extended self-awareness, and only way to do this to become more aware of how others perceive us is to ask feedback and get feedback. And but that can be very helpful when I try to be helping. Then is it really helping? If we don't, anybody's not telling us, so we might have a good intentions, but our outcomes are not as what we intended. And so that's why it's quite pivotal for us, whether we are leaders or change agents or helpers or just interacting partners. That's kind of richness. But then the other part is self-regulation, so that how we manage ourselves, our activities, but also our emotions and thoughts and behavior, and or maybe not just regulating our emotions, but our emotional reactions, and how we manifest. But then it's also how to be present and being reflexive. And that's quite, as we were talking about a coaching exercise, that how we in a facilitation situation really be able to be here and now for other people and build relations and really keep this kind of listening stance, for example. Then learning is as we know that now you have some taste of experience learning through this course, but this is really a ability and skill that is needed if we want to become better. It's getting more experience, but also reflecting on those experiences and being curious about that. How can we really become better? Better in that being helpful in our relationality, but also having a certain kind of critical stance towards our own perceptions and thinking, but also defending that, okay, this is valid thinking, but why it's valid thinking. And then next layer is interpersonal and social skills. So I would argue also that when we have self-awareness, we should also have a social and contextual awareness. Whereas we were talking about change is very contextual, and it's happening in always in a context. And being able to read the room and understand the context and the culture and the nature of social dynamics and interpret that in an adequate way. And so that's quite important as a facilitator, that we have a good sense of the social context. Then influencing building relationships, that's maybe traditional leadership stuff, but this is pretty much how we can build a relationship in professional setup. And I have distinguished this coaching and transforming skills from that, so that what's our way of being helpful, and that's then core of this facilitating skill from an understanding from my perspective. And then we have, of course, some substance and contextual knowledge, certain profession and knowing the industry and so forth, which is normally the stuff we are doing as our profession. And this which are in the core, they are kind of nice add-ons normally. But when we talk about leadership and facilitation, change management, I would argue that this core is even more important. And so that's just a quick skim through this kind of framework where we can think that our deeper expertise as a facilitator is built on. Then when we talk about meta routines, what are those? So all the routines, practice, habits that enable us keep ourselves on track, improve our performance, develop our capabilities, learn continuously, and grow as a person. So these are in a way, this again, self-management, learning, reflection, routines. And do we have time? Do we have a good moments? Take time and can do these. These are actually those practices that are needed. And then when we talk about useful methods for changes, and so it's something that we keep up our curiosity. That okay, what's going to be this time? That I have been able to to again pay my attention to a situation and not assume that this goes as before, but this is a new situation where we can be curious of what happens this time. So deliberate experimentation experiences again that we acquire new experiences deliberately, and then reflexivity is something that we make sense out of that, and then more let's say regular reflection on experience as well every now and then, that okay, I have had this stuff, but this is something that we stop and think and be more here and now, and also that we are conscious about our own thinking. And then finally, how can we learn and improve? We have been talking about lenses. So I would say that polishing our lenses, that how we really take a look, how do I perceive the world? What's my interpretive conceptual frames? And what are my kind of personal values? Explicate those. And then we have this personal theory of facilitation of leadership and leadership. And what are my principles there? What are my basic beliefs? Being aware of those, because we already have some. And then it's about building, as it was Risto mentioned, that how to become a personal. So because we have a person, we work in these relational professions through our personality. So it's also that building our personal style and practice, so that where I'm good at, what's my strong points, and what's my let's say improvement points, and what's the areas that I don't want to go at all. But really building on our personal style and practice is important. But then getting experiences. So as it was mentioned, that this is really, we learn to do this stuff through experience, and in real situations, and all new situations, all new tools, challenge to expand our facilitative repertoire, and we can expand that, but not just knowing things, but really getting experience, asking feedback. So it's after every session we can have a kind of reflective talk, that how was it, and but then also separately, that if we ask honest feedback and others can give us that's really source of for our development, and then making sense out of the experience. So that's also that our personal principles, values, this kind of theory, it's one tool for reflection, and then we can update that, we can expand that, but doing that consciously is quite helpful. And then if it's possible, get a person, a coach, reflection partner, as you have experienced, that making sense with another can be very, very helpful. And if we want to develop our capacity as a leader or helper, really having such partners with whom you can reflect on, and asking help from others is quite useful. And then we are never ready, so committing to continuity. So as we expect that this is also very strongly connected as our growing as a person, as a human being as well, because this stuff, being able to help others and enable others to do the work, is really connecting our way of being in the world as well all the time. So it's not just something mechanistic, something that is just a performance. It's always kind of human thoughts involved, and I would really encourage us to be better in that, because in AI era we need that more than ever. But that's some thoughts about this kind of how to become better, how to learn, and how to build those routines which are helpful in this. But that's so far about meta routines and practices.
Excellent. Again, if you have comments, feel free to put into the chat while I do this. Take control of the screen. Just about meta routines, it happens. I was at a physiotherapist this morning and she was looking at how I stand. And there was just like these minor things. And the whole point was I need to make it into a habit. I need to make it into a routine. I mean, it's not enough that she shows me once the little thing I need to do about my standing. I need to put it into my life. Yeah. I'm very conscious of my standing as we speak, by the way. Yeah, thanks, Jari. Let's see no comments yet, but if there are any. Good. Next topic, actually pretty much the last big topic of this course now, is that we have been talking about organizational transformation. And sure, and I mean, it's a no-brainer. All the organizations at the moment are talking about organizational transformation for many reasons. But maybe just because of that more or less every organization is concerned about what they should be. This is a global thing. It's actually a bigger change. And one way to look at this is definitely, as a segue from the meta routines to this is that, hey, what are the work-life skills? What are the skills in the near future? And here I have a couple of reports, and actually the one that I'm going to refer to is the one that came just a year ago from the World Economy Forum, and every, I think, 2 years, they have the Future of Jobs report, where they interview thousands of global companies. I think they're pretty much like large companies, corporations, and what do those companies see both the trends, what they see as are the skills of the future, and how are they dealing with them. But I think this nicely kind of puts the big picture here. So in the report 1 year ago said they had 5 big things that are causing businesses to transform. Broadening digital access. More and more people have access to digital things and digitalization. I think we can put AI into that bucket. General economic slowdown globally. Climate change mitigation, climate change hasn't gone away, and there's still, companies need to take that into account. Demographic shifts, and that's a direct quote. Demand of skills in talent management, teaching and mentoring, and motivation and self-awareness. And the demographic shift is in many countries, such as Finland. I mean, the population pyramid is a bit tilted, and there's, in the long term or in the midterm, there's not enough young people to compensate in the work life for the people who are going to be retiring. And then in the global south, for example, it's totally the other way. The generations of younger people are much bigger than the older now. And then last but not least is the fact that we read the news almost every morning are geo-economic fragmentations, meaning that it's the opposite of globalization from economic terms, and the geopolitical tensions. And yeah, there are many things over there. And these, just to know that these are the things that are pushing organizations to change. And what are then the skills? And this is a nice thing to look at the report from 2023 side by side from the report from 2025. And just maybe looking at the top 5 or top 10, if you can see the text, skills. And analytical thinking was there 4 years ago, and it was there 3 years ago, and it was there 1 year ago. Creative thinking was still very high. You can see resilience, flexibility, agility, motivation, self-awareness, they're pretty high. And now just remember the meta skills that Jari, you talked about, the meta route. I mean, I think these are quite meta in that sense. I mean, they are not traditionally skills that you would go, as a young person. Where should I go and study? Well, I will go to the School of Resilience, Flexibility, and Agility, or and I will get a bachelor's degree on motivation and self-awareness. So they're definitely meta skills. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that all of us can feel in our bones that, man, I need to be better at this. And if you look at the color coding, for example, like you said, many of them are cognitive skills. Many of them are purple, self-efficacy. I remember there was the whole self-awareness was in the circles. Working with others is very strong. Technology skills, let's see, where are they in the 25 report? It's number 6, and that's almost like a meta skill, isn't it? Technological literacy. I mean, that's not a technology skill, that's a meta skill that you actually know technology. And number 11 is the first technical skill, AI and big data. And actually, I circled that out because if this is a report from 25, it means that the study was done 24, year 24, the earliest. So yeah, ChatGPT was already out there, but I'm pretty sure this would now jump pretty high on the future skills report as well. But it was still number 11 in the report last year. Yeah, talent management. I think that's like meta skill. That's like the skill to manage the talent of people. Anyway, that's where we at. And one thing I really want to highlight from the report, which is said, is this direct quotation that when looking at the top skills listed, it really says that this combination of cognitive self-efficacy, interpersonal skills, pretty much what Jari you just had in the circles, within the top 5 emphasizes the importance ascribed by respondents to having now the green color. So the emphasis on those skills, according to the report, really puts a lot of weight on organizations being agile, innovative, and collaborative workforce, where both problem-solving abilities, personal resilience are critical for success. So it's actually pretty much saying that, hey, in any future organization, according to the corporation studied, you need to create an agile, innovative, and collaborative workforce. So I would go and say there's actually a huge demand for facilitation. It becomes actually a super critical skill in the future. Perhaps not in the future, I think it still is and has been, but it's going to be even more and more. I mean, is the digital transformation we're living in or have been living in the past 10, 20 years, nowadays we maybe call it AI transformation, and the climate change transformation, it is still there. I mean, even though the politics take the news, I mean, we all know that we are in trouble when it comes to the planetary resources and all of that. So what if these are actually skills transformations? Because the previous report pretty much highlighted that, hey, there is a huge skills transformation going on. And this means you probably need somebody to facilitate that the new experts with the new skills can work with the old experts, or the new generations work with the old generation. Who's going to make sure that happens? What about the role of AI in practice? Are you letting people just go and try Copilot and let's see what happens? Or should somebody actually be there facilitating and coordinating this? And the use of AI in a healthy way? I mean, there's many ways of using artificial intelligence, and many of them are probably not healthy for your cognitive capabilities. Then, of course, helping others to see the bigger picture and the long-term impacts. The stuff we just have been doing here, I think that becomes more and more important in uncertainty. If the details of what you're going to do are fuzzy, then the bigger context is the thing that you can agree on, which is the last point. How do you help others? So there's definitely, and maybe we can turn this into demand for meta skills, demand for skills that are not traditionally a profession or an education, seeing the big picture, skills to iterate, to clarify objectives, skills to have continuous dialogues about meanings and does everybody understand this and is this relevant? And then it's just the ability to bring all these different skills together in a team, in an organization, in a work community. And once you have those different skills, how do you facilitate these different diverse experts and diverse people to work together? Who helps them to, look at the same targets and goals and objectives? And then the ability of self-leadership and well-being of yourself in this uncertain world where things are changing, very stressful for us as humans. But how do you actually help others to manage as well? So this brings me to this kind of skills chart. I took this from a master's thesis worker of mine, Ida, a few years ago. She put it together, looking at actually competencies for sustainability. And I think this really works nicely here because there are these general professional competencies. I don't think they're going to go away. I mean, if you are doing marketing, you need marketing competencies, and marketing is not going to go away. But then you have, like, when in this thesis, she was looking at, specific sustainability competencies. That, okay, let's say our company is, doing ebooks. And what does it mean? What does sustainability mean for us and all that? Then you have specific skills that you figure out how ebook publication, for example, is sustainability. But then there's this big bubble in the middle. And this is what in the thesis was called key sustainability competencies. And this was based on studies of, okay, that if you want to transform companies to become more sustainability, it's, of course you have the kind of context-specific sustainability competencies, but the transformation skills become relevant. So skills that pretty much everybody needs to have as well. So I'm kind of looking at, when I was looking at these competencies, kind of, these sustainability competencies, how do you make organizations more sustainable? Well, they look very much like, I would say, change facilitation competencies, which, just as we've been discussing, is pretty much the same as the meta skills, skills that are not specific to certain context or education. So if we look at these one by one, what are these? So first is systems thinking, that you're understanding the organization as part of something bigger. That this is our organization, but we live in this ecosystem, we live in this city, or we live in this market, and seeing the interconnections. Then you probably need skills about values thinking. What is valuable for us? No matter what we do, what is valuable for the customers? What is valuable for us as an organization? What is valuable to stakeholders? What is valuable to the communities we live in? Having those discussions. Strategic thinking, ability to plan the future by setting long-term goals, just like in our exercise, going there into the future and seeing that what's the impact after 1 year. And after that, determining how we get there. That's a special skill, I mean. Then, of course, implementation skills, that getting things done. It's not enough to plan, it's not enough to analyze, somebody actually should do something. And then, of course, problem-solving skills. That's a special thing that's been, very popular for a long time. You identify the issues, you generate solutions, and make decisions based on the evidence and the analysis. Collaboration skills, working with other people, working with different people from different backgrounds, different generations, different countries, different cultures. And then futures thinking, the ability to see multiple potential futures, building scenarios, kind of different from strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is more like, how do we get from here to here? Futures thinking is more like vision thinking, that you can say, hey, by the way, have you realized that this could be possible? Or maybe we could see ourselves there. And then last but not least is in green, which I added in the original one, is self-leadership and well-being. The ability to take initiative and action on personal growth, that you kind of become an active agent in your own work, in your own well-being, in your own development. For yourself, but also for others. I think that's super important. If you look at the well-being discussions in the past 10 years, it's always very, to be honest, very individual focused, which is great and important. But typically in an organization, there's more people than you. So how do you help you as a collective to be a healthy work community, to have good well-being, and and how do you what is collective self-leadership? Jari and me could make a whole nother course based on that, because I think we both really believe that that's actually one of the big themes, that you make self-leadership a collective thing, which is a nice contradiction of words, if you will. So point being, skills and competencies in uncertainty and transformation. I fully believe that this is a really good starting point about thinking them. Yeah, go ahead, Jari, please.
Yes, I'm thinking about also this kind of, are we more now facing this kind of more radical paradigmatic shift as well, and disruption? And what could be a kind of positive disruptive capacity, meaning that we also have to break some legacies, maybe, if we want to build sustainable and organizations, I guess, because those we have a lot of such legacy structures as we've been talking here as well. And so maybe this kind of positive disruption could be added somehow. I don't know, but there could be something about that as well.
Yeah, I think one structural change I've been talking quite a lot about, and others, is like this list of skills. What if we make this like an official, corporation skills? People are promoted based on these things. I'm not sure many large organizations, they have more conservative skills and traditions, and those are the structures, that's what you get. But what if these become the skills for promotion or expertise or whatever? That would be perhaps radical, but a structural change. There's a couple of comments. All this requires a lot from people. All the complexity makes some people overwhelmed and turn to hierarchical structure. So much easier when someone tells you what to do. I think that's absolutely right. And then if you're in any leadership position, that's a very good awareness. That when do you actually bring people that, hey, there's the whole world, you can do whatever. That's a recipe for a burnout. I mean, and where do you give balance? When do you as yourself want that somebody tells you what to do? And when is the situation that you're ready to have an open page and, nobody's kind of telling you what to do? Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's the biggest thing. This uncertainty is requiring quite a lot from people. That's why highlighting the well-being part is very taxing. And like I said, the uncertainty and transformation, they really bring forth these things. That in uncertainty, when you have the foggy road, when you don't know as an organization, then as individually or collectively, you need to see the bigger picture. And that gives you maybe some stability, that gives you some boundaries. And then you need these skills to iterate, clarify, hey, this is our objective, this is what we mean by it, and iterate those. Objectives become like key items all the times. And having these continuous dialogues about meaning. And the ability to bring skills together, facilitate different people, different experts. And then the last but not least, and here I put in the green because I fully believe that actually all of those three above are key to the well-being. Well-being is not something you add on top of these things, but actually once you have these things really well in an organization, then people can take more. People are in a better condition. But if you think about our course and the tools, I think the exercise 1 and 2 were really about those things. And exercises 3 and 4, they were really about this clarifying objectives, having a dialogue. What does things mean? And then maybe the last one, the bringing different skills together and working with different people. That was pretty much every exercise. We pushed you to work with people you don't know before, with certain diversity in your background or age or even country. And then kind of last, remember this slide, this cute girl from the first lecture. This is really pushing that. So what is leadership in all this then? And was it Katri, your comment about easier to go to conservative hierarchical structures, when that's probably true, but we all know that we need something new. And we believe that leadership is something else. It's not a formal position. It's not limited to executives. Leadership is not a one-person thing. It's a team sport. You need, it's a collective decision that this is how we want our leader to lead us. And it's a very diverse role. I mean, different people lead differently, and you might yourself be a different kind of leader in different situations, and that's absolutely how it should be. And the last point kind of resonates, that leadership changes as you change. You become more experienced, you go to a different place, different context, the world around changes. So it's a very adaptive format. Yeah, Jari.
Yes, I really want to emphasize here that we mix quite easily leader with leadership. So being those separate, that leadership is something that is built in context between people, and we are all partakers in leadership. And so that's but as a leader, we are in charge, and of course we have to initiate this leadership to happen. But we can't decide that to happen by ourselves, because it depends on the other persons as well. And so it's a relational thing to happen. And so that's something. Those lenses are much more, let's say, interesting and fruitful that we think leadership as a contextual and relational, processual kind of phenomenon.
Yeah, there were a couple of good comments. I was checking the chat as well that what might be the best approach to AI transformation that's a good question. And then Teemu is asking about, is this the same as what Esa Saarinen talks about, thinking about the thinking of thinking? I think there is similarities to here, but I think, we're really, that this is not an individual exercise.
Yeah.
If you are in an organization, then yes, you should be thinking about thinking, but how do you do that collectively? Because otherwise you're just a bunch of individuals. And the whole point of an organization is that you are actually something more than a bunch of individuals.
And we come to this participation part, that we make sense out of our context and doings and so on. So that's and making our collaboration and practices mutual. And the only way is to talk about those and make meanings, and then we can assess, and then we can improve as well. But without this meaning making, we have all different lenses and interpretations, and then it's a lot of guessing. So. And that's very core of this organizational life, and it's needed even more now when we are hybrid working and we have this technology coming and so on. So I think this is about human interaction, but then meaning making out of the interaction. So this meta talk.
Talking about meta talk, last and final breakout room, same rooms. And the question is as following: what are you personally going to do differently because of this course or because of something that changed your way of thinking? As a change agent or as a facilitator or something else. It's just 15 minutes, but we're going to have maybe 11 minutes or something. But let's go to the rooms and then share your next steps. What are you going to change starting tomorrow or maybe next week?
Or tonight.
Or tonight. Oh, well. Yeah, that's a good point. So it would be lovely to see what you just discussed, because we were not there and you were not in the other rooms either. I'll give you a minute for that. Yeah. Scope more clearly, apply the tools, collaboration, discussion. The difference between coaching and facilitating. Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't think we discussed that so much. Kind of depends, doesn't it? But I guess both are kind of midwives, if you remember that. The coach or the facilitator, they're not the one doing the thing, but they're definitely helping the other person. Standing my ground, going deep to strategic questions. Try to take the learners into practice as a facilitator and a facilitated. Yes. To be present, create psychological safety, think more about how spending time and how it makes a difference. Yeah. More time to reflect. Good. As you might have guessed, it's time to put what's the English expression? Tie a ribbon on it. Put a bow on it. Yeah. That was 6 out of 6 lectures. Next week, well, we are not going to be here, but I'm happy that you're listing already what are you going to start doing. So it is your responsibility now. Don't leave yet. As normal. Key takeaways here, further readings, plenty of them, a couple of master theses, so forth. Tools, I think this is still valid. This is already in the 6 years ago, actually. I might have mentioned this in another lecture. All these companies, below we asked them that, do you have free tools to help people facilitate? And sure they had, and I put them together in that web page. I hope you can access them. And then a couple of years ago, we did this together with Aalto Executive Education. It's a handbook. I'm sorry, this is only in Finnish, but with the AI tools nowadays, I mean, you just give it to your choice of AI and they got it. But it's a free online PDF booklet about how do you build organizations that are learning all the time, learning organizations and so forth. And surprise, there's a lot of things that we went over here. But this is a booklet done with a lot of company executives and people responsible for organizations learning. So, and then practicalities, check your emails this week. If you have undone business, if you have done all the assignments, if you have all the attendance forms are filled, then you don't get an email and you're perfectly fine. But Katri and Jaakko will be putting together a list of people who are missing either attendance or the exercises, and then you need to react. Note, the course shuts down on June 5th. After that, we are like, we're gone. Not like totally gone, you can still reach us, but it will be very difficult. Probably easier in September when we get back from holidays. But just my point being, make sure that everything is okay by June 5th. If there's something wrong and you don't get an email, that's our fault, and we will fix that. Don't worry. And those of you who are thinking, hey, I would like to get, what about the course, diplomas or certificates? Unfortunately, we don't have anything to do with them. So if you're a FITEC student, the FITEC system somehow, which we don't really know because it's not our system, somehow gets that. So you can ask them about it. Your checklist for today. Attendance form is right there. Jaakko has put it there. Thank you, Jaakko. So mark your attendance there if you were attending. Don't mark if you were not. Duh. All the materials will be in Google Drive as usual, the recordings. And now, new, cool, super feature, never done before in this course feedback form. So please do. Yeah, you didn't have that last week, but this week you have it. So please do that. You might have gotten a course feedback link from the Aalto system, but you don't all get them, and that's why we're using this form. You can answer them both. I mean, take up the challenge, and you can even have the same answers in both or different. It's really depending on you. If you have any questions, then sorry, yeah, what, Jari?
And really, please do give feedback. That's important for us to
yes, it is
for the future, because we are rewarded based on that as well, or not rewarded, but that's important because we want.
It is important for the sustainability of this course.
Yes, indeed. So we want to improve it, and
so we can show that amazing people, and did they like it?
Yes.
Or did they find it useful?
Yes.
So really emphasizing the course feedback. And then now, Jaakko, can you turn off the recording? Our final thing